these ascended masters who are channeling through them, and you know they're not ascended masters. They're nothing but fallen angels, you know, deceiving a gullible public. And a lot of you, you know, you're on top of things, and you know that these are nothing but fallen angels. A lot of you think they're demons, and they're not. And I'll get through that later. I'm going to start going through this alien agenda. But they're all from Satan. I mean, they're fallen angels. That's, you know, they're not, you know, our friends living in galaxies millions of miles away, really wanting to help Earthlings. You know, they hate humans. They hate us. Why do they hate us? Because we were created in the image of God. And that was the one thing they wanted, and that was what caused greed and pride in Lucifer, and why he falls in a reigning archangel. If you look at the pre-Adamic civilization, and I know there's not a lot of information out there, and I can't prove a thing I'm saying, but you know, I've seen it in the codes, and there was a thriving angelic civilization here on Earth, and you know, we've uncovered artifacts in the Earth to prove that an Atlantis existed, and they don't even talk about the one on the West Coast called Lemuria, and you know, there's a thriving angelic civilization here. There was one on Jupiter, one on Mars, one on Venus. There was another planet in between the two called Rahab. And there was interplanetary trade at that time. These angels had their own civilizations going. They weren't sitting on clouds playing harps. I mean, there's different ranks and types of angels. These angels, what I've seen in the codes, especially the ones that inhabited Mars, the angels were menstrual. So that signifies that, yes, there were female angels, and they were able to procreate. So a lot of people say, well, angels aren't born with, you know, they can't procreate, and that's, you know, hey, maybe depending on which rank you're talking about, because you can't say all of them weren't. God has created billions of angels, and we don't even know the number that fell with Lucifer. The Bible just says 1/3 of the angels fell with him. They were deceived by him. We have no number, but we know that there's millions. There's just millions of them, tens of millions, and they're all coming here for the last day. You know, Earth is surprised, and so, you know, people need to get ready, get prepared. It's coming. The Lord told us about it. The church has covered it up. And I'm here to expose it. I'm here to announce it, wake everybody up, get them back. You know, there's other people doing it. I'm not the only one. I can't take credit for that at all. I'm probably the last in the line. There's probably, you know, people have been doing this for years. But I'm going to use every avenue I can to inform people about what Enoch was speaking of, what Daniel was speaking of. Daniel spoke about it. He spoke about the fourth kingdom being iron mixed with clay, the different, diverse, and more monstrous kingdom. And we know that the iron mixed with miry clay is aliens and humans. It was a hybridization. And I know churches like to go on and say that the iron is communism and, you know, whatever. But really, when you look at the wheat and the tares and the iron and the clay, it's hybridization. God said in the days of Noah, so would the last days be. And in the days of Noah, we had hybridization. We had aliens mixing with humans. And it never stopped. It never went away. The flood at that time destroyed all the abominable creations that were made and created because of the bestiality that was going on, where you had the unicorn and you had all these different animals and half human and half animal and these, you know, detestable abomination creations. The flood destroyed all of that. And that was the whole reason. Noah's family was the only one left with pure human DNA. That's why God destroyed the world with a flood, to restore human genetics. And what happened was in Genesis 6:4, it says, they came back. They kept falling. The original angels that fell were judged, but even after the flood, they came back. And that's what I'm going to get into. And I just want to go through this, some information here about what the New World Order is, and then how it moves into the alien agenda. And then, if you know, after the break, we'll take questions. When President Bush used the Gulf War in 1991 to announce the New World Order, most people didn't really know what he was talking about. You know, he mentions unity and peace, and that's not a bad thing. But goodwill toward men isn't what he was talking about. His grins, speaking in dark sentences, and the usual political jargon and games played at the public's expense was going to be nothing more than demise of the people he was claiming to bring peace to in this New World Order. When he said on television and he boldly announced he was, you know, the creation of the New World Order, most people didn't know what he was talking about. You know, they talk of peace and unity, and that's what the Bible says. When the Antichrist comes, he's going to speak of peace and prosperity. They say peace when there is no peace. The Bible warns you there is no peace. And they use dark sentences in all of their speeches. It's almost like the cults have their own language. And you can almost pretty much decode when they start speaking. They have terminology that they use that we don't understand what they're talking about, but they understand what they're talking about. And Daniel calls it dark sentences, meaning, you know, it's occultic and has double meanings. And there's some prophets online, people out there that have information on some of the stuff that they do, some of the ways that they speak to the public and in the public media domain, and the languages they use. And they're signaling each other. They do that with the color of ties they wear, with the pins, the pearls they wear in their lapels. I mean, it's never ending. And if you try to follow everything they do, you're just going to go crazy. I don't want to focus on them. I want to focus on the Lord. And what I do is just reveal what the Lord wants me to about them. So I'm not going to follow them every day. I follow the Lord. But I'm going to expose what I can and what He tells me to. The New World Order itself is a vast conspiracy of old bloodline families, wealthy and famous, the corporate elite, the United Nations, and the secret societies. They're broken up into two factions, more well known as the Rothschild and the Rockefeller factions. So you have one based out of England and one more well based out of the USA. It consists of double agents, members switching factions, lies, betrayal, murder, general mayhem. The anthrax, a couple of years ago, the anthrax being mailed, that was the factions fighting amongst each other. One of the news organizations that was hit, one of the rag tabloid magazines, was ready to come out with an article and photo of one of the other politicians in the other faction, and they got hit with the anthrax. I mean, they play rough. They don't, and innocent people get involved. A lot of innocent people were killed through that. Those who fight to gain control of the hidden agenda to unite the one world under one government gets it all. So, the way they view it, the winner gets it all. So they're fighting out each other. They're not all working together. There's no unity in anything but division in Lucifer's groups in any of them. They're not all working together. They all work against each other because they all think they can be the ones to bring him into power, and he just sits on top of them all. He sits back and watches them all go. Watching it all, from the aircraft to the bases to even infiltration of government jobs, appointments, cabinets, Congress, the Pentagon, and even the White House, has been the yet consistent, subtle presence of aliens. They've never gone anywhere. They've always been in our space. They've always been under the earth. They're not extraterrestrial. They don't come from millions of galaxies away. They're in our solar system, and they're dependent on the Earth's electromagnetic field to travel. So when you hear these ascended masters or these aliens talk about, we're from millions and billions of miles away, it's a lie. They're right here in our own solar system. They inhabited these planets. When I get back to the pre-Adamic talk here a little bit, when they had the interplanetary travel, when the angelic civilizations were here, they traded amongst each other, from planet to planet to planet. They weren't limited to just being on Earth. And when Satan rebelled, and God cast judgment on Satan and all the angels that rebelled, He destroyed those planets with hailstones of fire. The same way He destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, He destroyed those planets. And a lot of the angels were confined to the hollow cavities of these planets, and some of them were allowed to roam free. Satan was allowed to roam free. His home planet was completely cast out of the solar system. It's coming back as Planet X, but it was cast out of the solar system. Whereas Mars, Jupiter, Venus, all these other planets, the surfaces were destroyed, and the angels, went underneath to get away from the judgments of God. And they're all coming back. They're coming back to Earth. The aliens are everywhere. They're watching everything we do, from sabotaging missiles as they sit in our silos, to taking out a satellite or a rover here and there, to eavesdropping on military bases, to hanging out outside the White House, and even yours and mine. They're in the sky. They're on the ground. They're infiltrating society as hybrids. The aliens aren't coming. They're already here. Would you know if you saw one? Probably not. Probably not right away. They use holographics to look human. Occasionally you will hear of a story buried in a tabloid or somewhere on the internet of people seeing others shapeshift in front of them or turn into an alien with scaly hands or skin. And there are two different types of infiltration into society. The first way is direct breeding. And you've heard of alien abductions, the little grays, abducting people into the UFOs, performing medical experiments on them, and then sending them back. Then there's the victims who don't remember all the details, just remember seeing a UFO and then can't explain the missing time. Some are taken repeatedly. Some are taken so much they begin to emphasize with their abductors. You're probably familiar with Whitley Strieber. If you're not, you can go to Whitley Strieber's site. He's at .com, WhitleyStrieber.com. Repeatedly taken, repeatedly abducted by aliens, emphasized with them for a long time, and now he's coming out with they're evil. He no longer sees them as the lie they were trying to portray, that they were our friends or they wanted to help. He sees them for what they are now. You see the same stories around the country and around the world about with abductees, and there's so many of them. There's no way this could be made up. There's no way this could just be a random chance happening. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of these abduction stories where people who have dreams of being abducted, and to them that they are dreams, because what they do is they will erase your memories. They will try to before they send you back. so you can't remember the abduction experiences. And a lot of